Hi, guys, and welcome to Conversations with Real People. I'm your host, Alanda Silva, and let's dive right in. Again. Hi, Crystal. Thank you for joining me today. So this is titled "Let's Talk: Conversation with Word Magic." Why word magic? If we can jump straight into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a copywriter. So words, of course, are kind of my business. But word magic actually came. So my business had multiple iterations before it actually became word magic. It started out as quirk copywriting, and then it was just crystal writes, and eventually it was badass bestseller. And then badass bestseller was a challenge for SEO purposes, right? If you're using a word like badass, SEO does not love you. So I actually asked a bunch of my clients. I said, how would you describe me and what would you use? So I did some beautiful research. And the phrase that kept coming back for every single person was, I don't know how you do what you do, but it's like you take what's in my brain and you put it down on paper and it's just like magic. It's like this crazy word magic that you do. And that just kind of stuck. And after about the fourth or fifth time I heard it, I was like, okay, I get it. That's the name. I understand. So it became word magic, and I haven't looked back since.
Oh, amazing. Hopefully we get to have a magical session today. That was nice. So thank you again for joining me, Crystal. And would you mind introduce yourself to the community, to everyone?
Yeah.
Who are you and what do you do? And then we'll get into your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Crystal, Adair Bunning, last name is, of course. I own a company called Word Magic Copywriting. It's based out of Victoria, which is on Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. But I work abroad all the time. I'm actually a digital nomad with my husband, meaning we don't live anywhere. We live and work where we are. So currently, we're in Vancouver, Canada. We're also just about to hit New Zealand, Germany, Croatia, Australia, and a host of other places this year. So I work wherever I am. My business specifically is around copywriting and ghostwriting. So I'm a 4 times New York Times bestselling ghostwriter, meaning other people's books have my words in them, but not my name on them. And I write websites, email funnels, newsletters, all the good stuff, as well as a copywriter. So yeah, word magic it is. Lots and lots of word magic.
Amazing. Sounds interesting. And just to jump right in, why did you choose to be a copywriter? Is this what you intended to become when you were, let's say, I don't know, 15 years old?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember 15. So the funny story for me was when I was a kid, there's this hilarious story of like when Nintendo came out, and I'm going to date myself here, but Nintendo came out in Canada. It was a big deal. I grew up in Canada. And when Nintendo came out, everybody wanted one. And so for Christmas that year, of course, I got a Nintendo like a lot of kids did. Problem was, I didn't want a Nintendo. I was the weird kid that didn't want a Nintendo. I actually wanted a typewriter. And so after asking a billion times, my dad bought me a typewriter. And that was kind of the start of my writing career. I wrote, my dad jokes that I almost bankrupted our family on typewriter tape. It was super expensive at the time, but I was a writer and I started doing what I love. Now, I always wanted to be a writer for a job, but I grew up in an era where writers were considered broke, drunk, and in bars, right? And it wasn't a cool thing to be a writer. It wasn't the cool job. It wasn't the like, you're going to make money and you're going to change the world and you're going to do things job. It was the like, yeah, that's nice. You should be a writer kind of like in the background, but really you should pick another career path. So I went to school for media. Turns out I loved, again, the writing aspect of it. I loved writing scripts for television shows and adverts. I was really good with ads. I was really good with the marketing component, but I hated the actual on-camera work. And on radio, same thing. Like I could write the ads, but I did not want to be on this. I didn't want to do this, right? So I actually ended up falling into event planning. And so for 2 decades, I was a luxury event planner running things behind the scenes, basically scripting and directing events all across the globe for major festivals, summits, workshops, conferences, and weddings. And I burned myself out. Truthfully, I burned myself out. After 2 decades running events, I burned myself out. And I finally decided during COVID, like a lot of people, I was like, This is my out. This is my chance. I'm taking it. I quit my event job, which was shocking to people. I was one of the few people I know who had a full-time events job during COVID. I quit my job and said, I'm going to go write. And my husband thought I was nuts. And like 3 months later, 4 months later, I had already doubled my income and was killing it as a copywriter and a ghostwriter. And I've never looked back. So that was kind of my transition from, wearing all black behind the scenes as an event person to wearing bright colors, but writing all the words behind the scenes now.
Oh my God, what a fascinating story. I just love the plot twist and how you were able to embrace your passion during a challenging time. Tell us more about that. Like, it's hard to think about. I remember during COVID, everything literally stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, myself, it was a transition period. And I was like, the question that kept coming to my mind was, what will I do now? How can I adapt to this new reality? How can I change my business model? Who am I right now in the midst of COVID? And quitting your job in the midst of COVID, I would say it's a brave decision. What led, I don't know, what made you just be like, I'm going to click this button and I'm not going to look back?
Oh my God, it was Zoom. If I had to run one more Zoom meeting, I was going to lose my mind. Like Zoom was the end of it. Zoom killed me. I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, this is silly. I can't. I don't know that I'll be completely honest. I don't know that my decision felt brave in the moment. I think it felt crazy. I think my husband especially was like, hold up, you just gave away a 6-figure career for what? What are we doing? What? There's no plan? Okay. But I just knew. I had always known. I'd always been a writer. I didn't fall into the career. I didn't just jump ship. So while I was doing events, I was actually working on copy. I was writing the copy for all of my events behind the scenes. I was testing launch pages and landing pages and websites. I was testing email funnels. I was doing all that work while I was still in events. So I was still writing while I was running events. But the difference was I was just like, hey, I don't want to run the event anymore. I just want to write the really great email to all of the attendees to tell them what's up. Mm-hmm. I want to connect with them in that direction. So when I left, it wasn't like I left and went to something brand new that I hadn't been doing. I sort of had, but I didn't have a plan. It wasn't like people knew me for this necessarily. I still remember my very first post on Facebook being like, hey guys, so I did the crazy thing. I quit my job today. And by the way, you don't know this, but I've been writing for a very, very long time, and I'm taking on 5 new clients. Who's in? I actually went for a walk in the forest. For those who are spiritual, you're going to understand this. I went for a walk in the forest to clear my head right after I quit, because I was just like, what have I done? What have I done? And in the forest, I got really, really clear, and I got this voice that told me, in no uncertain terms, send 7 emails. And I was like, to who? About what? Like, what are these 7 emails? And I was like, okay. And intuitively, I knew that the response was send 7 emails to 7 people you think you can help, telling them what you do now. And so I did. And of the 7 emails I sent, 6 hired me on the spot and became like the bulk of my income for the next 3 months. And in doing that, I mean, those 6 people, I love you to death. You changed my entire life. And you got a really sweet deal comparative to what I charge now. That's so true. Win-win, right? Like, you guys took a chance on me and helped me shift. And you got a really great deal on what a copywriter typically costs. But it didn't feel brave at the time. It just felt like something I had to do. Like, I knew that I was ready. I'd been ready for almost a decade to shift. But the money, the ego, the pats on the back, the pedestal from being an event planner, it was hard to give up. It was hard to say, like, hey, yeah, I don't need people fawning over me and sending me on trips around the world and stuff. I'm just going to sit at home and write.
And that was a weird bills on those trips.
Yeah, it was a super weird transition. And I struggled the first year. Truthfully, I really did struggle the first year with recognizing that in the events industry, you're kind of held up on this pedestal, right? People look up to you, and people knew me, right? I couldn't walk in downtown Toronto without somebody being like, "Hey, it's Crystal." Like, I had a reputation. And Christmas came around, or birthdays, and like I was filled with flowers and gifts, and like it was a really nice life. My ego got stroked a lot in events. And the first year out, my birthday came around first. I remember nobody remembered. No gifts, no flowers, no phone calls. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, I went from pedestal to like, garbage bin in about 2 seconds. Wow. And it was a tough transition. I remember crying that first birthday, being like, oh my God, I left an industry that loved me for what? Like, what have I done? But the truth is now, I mean, I set my own schedule. I have much more time freedom than I ever did before. I have much more financial freedom than I ever did before. I get to choose more so now who I work with and who I don't want to work with. And I actually love what I'm doing. I actually get excited every day to get up and be like, oh, I have a great project. Like today, I get to write 2 websites, and I'm so excited to write these websites because they're for great products, incredible people. And I don't always remember feeling that way when I run events. So it was nice to get the pat on the back and feel the pedestal. But there's something about personal fulfillment that writing really gives me that I wasn't getting in my other career.
Wow, I love that you mentioned personal fulfillment. Like, what would you say to, I don't know, your 20-year-old self or your 15-year-old self being confused? Someone is out there now really confused about what is this hype about entrepreneurship? What is this hype about, oh, you doing what you love? Because these days there are many things about discover your passion, do what you love. And they might be thinking, what I love cannot sustain my lifestyle. What are you going to tell them?
So I'm going to give you some controversial advice, and that's don't quit your day job.
I totally agree.
Don't quit your day job. I mean, working for other people teaches you skills that you get to practice on somebody else's business before you launch your own. 100%. I learned everything I know about running a business from working for other humans and seeing what worked, what didn't work, and then adapting it to my own business when I was ready. I grew up with 2 entrepreneurial parents, and both of my parents were like, oh my God, please do not start a business. It is like the hardest, because starting a business often means you feel like you're in feast or famine all the time. Yeah. Some months you're like kicking it. You've got, $30,000 in the bank, and you're like, woo, we had a good month. And the next month you're like, whoa, we got nobody on the list right now. What's happening? Like, I'm super busy or super bored. I'll take December as a great example. December 2 years ago, I was booked. I made $50,000 in December. I had so much client work. I was actually like having to tell people I cannot take on more. Like, you're going to have to wait 3 months. I had a 3-month backlog. This past Christmas, it was quiet. It was quiet. Things have changed. Recession's happening. Like, it quieted down, but then it kicked back in January. So I could have looked at December and been like, whoa, the year before we did so much money and now we made nothing. My business is failing. Or wait, press pause, hold. I know it sucks to hold money on your credit card. I know it sucks to have debt. Welcome to being an entrepreneur. Yes. Sometimes we have to hold debts. Sometimes we have to make the hard decisions of like, hey, this month we're not going anywhere because we don't have money. Right. Hey, this month we're going to trim the fat. Like, all those extras that we normally engage in, we're not doing that. Yes. And you have to get really good at managing your money. If there's one thing entrepreneurship has taught me, be really good with your money. I'm not really good with my money. I'm the first to tell you this. I'm terrible with my money. More money, more problems, literally, in my life. But I married a human who is fantastic with managing money.
Thank God.
So I found my balance. And, who you marry, this is a little off topic, but not really. Who you marry is as important as the people you bring into your business.
Ooh, that's deep.
They can make or break your business, right? My husband is literally all of the things I am not. I am terrible with money. My husband's opening a bank, for goodness sakes. Like, he is the money guy. He remembers numbers. He's exceptional with them. He knows what taxes we have to pay and where the money has to go and all this. He manages the money so that I can focus on the creative work. I can focus on doing the marketing for my business and for his business. I can look at the strategic plan of a company and know how the pieces are going to fit and where we're going to take it and the projections. My husband handles the cash.
Yes.
In the same way that I have a bookkeeper, in the same way that I hire an ops manager to do my logistics, in the same way that I go out and find graphic design people because I write, but dear God, you do not want me to make a graphic. I can't make it look pretty. I can make it sound pretty.
Yes.
Different, right? We hire people that fill the gaps that we have.
100%.
Your spouse is not meant to be an identical replica of yourself. They are meant to fill the gaps. And when you treat your marriage as a place where this person is filling my gap, they are the wisdom in this realm. It is not mine. Yes. Life gets so much easier. When him and I had a very frank discussion about, I'm terrible with money. I don't like hold a ton of debt or anything like that. But like, literally, if I want something, my brain's like, we're just going to go do it. We'll figure it out. Like, I don't know how we're going to make that happen, but okay, we're in. Let's do it. And my husband sometimes will look at me and be like, yeah, that's like 20 grand. Like, where's that money coming from? And I'll be like, I don't know yet, but it has to. And he's like, hold up. And he'll rejig some numbers and tell me things. And I'll be like, okay, if you do this, you can't have this and this. So you need to make a choice. I don't make choice. My brain's just like, I'm a creative. I want that. Okay, let's figure this out.
Yes. Yeah.
We need both in our businesses to survive and thrive. And so I looked at getting married and my husband as just another, I don't want to say just another person in my business. He's obviously much more than that. But in terms of filling the gaps of my blank spots, that's what he does.
Yes. I think that's so important that you mentioned this because many people don't understand why. I know that when some people think about entrepreneurship, they think about a solo trader. But it's so important to be able to find someone that can fill in the gap with you or for you because you alone cannot cover all the aspects of your business.
I mean, you can, and you often do in the early days, but as soon as you can afford to hire, my advice is to hire.
I agree.
Right? Like as soon as you're at a space where hiring is possible, hire. You don't have to be an expert in everything. You have to be really good at the thing you're good at. And knowing what you're great at really will change your entire outlook on business.
This is a great point. Leading back to the question I asked earlier, how do you find what you're great at? Someone that's just starting out in life.
Oh my gosh.
25 or
try
20.
Everything. That's how you figure it out. You try everything. Hey, I don't know much about this. Let me do a little research. Oh, that's really interesting. I like doing that. Cool. Maybe this is something I'm good at. Oh, I tried this thing. I didn't like it, or I'm not very good at it. Okay, that might be a weak spot in mine that I need to consider hiring for. I know, for example, I'm really great with the words. What I'm really terrible at is making sure that those words go out to other people. Right? Like I have an email funnel. I can write my email funnel, but the person to actually put it in and press send and make sure all the tags and stuff are in, that is not my forte. That is not the thing I want to focus on. That is not my attention span. My attention span is on making the words correct and telling you what needs to happen with it. So I have a wonderful VA who figures out and takes all of my words and puts it into the email and makes sure the email goes out. Mm-hmm. I can't do graphics. I know what I want. I can explain what I want. But I need somebody else to translate that into an actual image because that's not my forte. Yes. Right? So, and it was trying it on. Dude, I've played on Canva many, many hours trying to be like, I can do this. No, I cannot. It has been proven time and time again. When I do it, it does not work. I am not the person to do that. Canva was invented for humans who have a little bit of skill. I have none. I have none. So that is somebody else.
So you tell them to try different things.
Just try. I mean, here's the thing. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, right? And when you lose, it's just a notation to say, okay, not my best. What else do you got? What else can I try?
Yeah.
This may work, this may not, whatever. I mean, the best thing I ever did working for other people was try on different hats and try on different things and be like, okay. I mean, the reason I knew I was a good writer, I tried it. I liked, true story. I love to read. I was an early reader. I was one of those kids that would like sit and read a full book when they were like 2 years old. I love that stuff. I was an early reader and somebody said to me, do you write? And I said, no, like, I don't know how to write. I remember this. I was like 6 or so. And somebody gave me a pen and a piece of paper and said, if you like reading so much, maybe you'd like to try writing. And I mean, I wrote a few stories. The first few, I'm sure, were crap. Like, I'm sure they were terrible. But eventually I found my voice and I started writing it. And then I started winning awards for it. And people started paying attention to it. And all of a sudden I'm getting asked to write books and write websites and things like that. I didn't know I had a gift. I didn't even think writing was a gift.
Was a gift, yeah.
I was like, doesn't everybody know how to write? Like, it feels so duh. Like, what do you mean you don't know how to write, right? Yeah. Writing to me felt like this thing that everybody knew how to do, and therefore I never considered it a gift. I figured, like, to me, it felt like breathing. I don't consider breathing necessarily my gift in life. I mean, it is a gift, but it's not my specific gift, right? And that's how I felt about writing. I didn't realize literally until I was in my mid-20s and already had a couple New York Times bestsellers under my hat that other people couldn't do that. That this was a specific thing to me that was a gift. But had I not tried it on, had I not played with it, had I not dabbled in it, how the hell would I have known? I just assumed everybody could do it. And most people who have a gift, like a true gift, believe that everybody else can do what they do because it comes so easy. And that's the other thing to pay attention to is what comes easy and natural to you.
That's a good point.
What is the thing that you find so easy that other people are like, whoa, I can't do that? I mean, I still remember people asking me to write stuff for them and me being like, guys, it's not hard. Just write it. Like, and they'd be like, oh my God, I sit down on a page and my brain just, and I'm like, I don't understand. What? Like, no, you just sit down on a page and you start writing. Like, it's not hard. But I found it easy. And the ease is what also denotes that it's a gift. It's not a learned thing that you have. Most of our gifts are not learned. They're somewhat intuitive with learning that happens after. I didn't go to school to be a writer. I've never taken a journalism class. I know nothing from an academic point of view of how to write. It was just something I knew. And I struggled for years to explain how I knew. I just knew. And now I've taken classes and courses and workshops, and heck, I even teach them now. But it took just playing with it and trying it on to kind of go, hey, I think this is actually my thing.
And paying attention to what comes easy to you.
What comes easy?
Wow.
Like if you are somebody who can walk into a kitchen, literally open a fridge and start cooking, and you like doing it, not everybody has that gift. For those of you who can do that, I love you. You're an incredible human. I am not that human. Right? My husband and numbers, like it blows my mind what my husband does with numbers. He can just remember a number like that and he can do like crazy calculations in his head. It comes easy. That's his gift. So now he uses it in his business. So that would be how I would recommend doing it. But never consider the thing that's easy not your gift, because it's definitely your gift.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you so much, Crystal. This was an amazing conversation, guys. I recommend that you listen to this again because Crystal dropped lots of gems. And Crystal, before we end this, where can they find you? And where can they follow you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always on Twitter, Word Magic Copy. Always easy place to find me. You can check out my website, wordmagiccopywriting.com, or just search my good old name. That always works. Either way, happy to help out. I teach, I write, I coach people how to write books, all kinds of good stuff. If it has something to do with words, chances are that I'm involved somehow.
Amazing. I'm also going to drop the handle in the description of this video. So guys, thank you for joining us in this, session of Let's Talk. And if you're ever interested in joining this conversation, reach out to me, and then who knows, you could be the next speaker. Well, thank you for your time, Crystal. It was amazing.
You.
Hopefully you get to join us again. You don't only have to have one conversation. We can continue this conversation again and again and again.
So good. All right.
Thank you, guys. Bye for now.